morning, everyone. Holy Spirit meeting Thursday, July 13, 2017, 10 a.m. I'd like to ask everyone to please silence your phones, PDAs, all the equipment, please. I'm going to ask Mr. DuPont to say our pledge and Mr. Quinn to say our prayer. Please stand and take the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to recite the Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to stray from the original plan. We're actually going to move to item number 5. We have a great crowd here today. Thank you all for showing up. So we're going to move right into that. And the first thing we're going to do is go ahead into our speakers and let them have their time to speak. I'd like to have Mr. Terry Burrows.
Terry Burrows, step up to the mic, please, sir.
I can holler loud enough, y'all hear. My name is Terry Burrows. I am a resident of Little Florida Beach. And due to our recent storm, a little depression, we've lost all of our dunes that on the beach road, the street that abuts the beach. Ryan and Emily came down and they looked at the situation. We discussed the situation with them. I know Ryan has some things to say about it. I've been living in Cameron Parish 27 years. I know most of you guys have been here a lot longer than me. I've seen a hell of a lot of changes in just that short time. We've lost 200, 250 yards of beach in front of my place. We got to do something. I know that, a lot of people say, well, whatever we do is just going to get undone next little storm. You don't put tires on your truck and expect them to last forever. You've got a road maintenance program. You've got a bridge maintenance program. You've got people cutting grass. As much beach frontage as we've got in this parish, we need a beach management program. We need a maintenance program for the beach. I know it's a money issue. And you guys live in this parish too. And if we want to save it, we better get off our butts and start trying to save it now. Because 10 years from now, we may not be able to get to the Johnson Biofuel if we don't do something now. There is a borrow pit 200 yards to the west. And it's been cut already to the beach. Now, it's been filled in. We got it filled in, and we're thankful for that. But it's not going to last very long if we don't do something. And when it gets to that borrow pit, it's only another 200 yards to the house. So, I know that we're all strapped for money. The parish is strapped for money, and I hear that. But, we've got to figure out something to do to try to start maintaining the beach. We've got an issue right now where it washed the dunes away. We got signs that said, "Do not enter the beach." The beach board for that. And that's, it was great. People are driving their trucks, 4-wheelers, right there and right past the sign. It's going to, that's knocking down the sand. Next time we're going to lose a road. And it's going to cost a hell of a lot more to fix the road than it does to do some maintenance. That's all I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Burrows. Mr. James Turner.
Good morning. My name is James Turner. My wife and I, Mary Gay, live at 202 Richard at Constant Beach. I say live there, we have a home there. And we've been there 10 years, and I've been coming to the beach since 2001. I'm a retired landscape architect, emphasis on retired. But I just wanted folks to know that if there's something I might do to help, I would be happy to do so. My experience over the years has been as a teacher at LSU and working as a landscape architect in coastal environments really throughout the world, but in particular in Florida. Just finished a couple of big projects that revolved around the latest hurricane they had over there, Hurricane Matthew, last August. And we rebuilt and restored some high dunes. These are 60-foot dunes. And it was a pretty big project. We're talking about millions of dollars to get this thing restored. And the encouraging thing to me here as a landscape architect is that we do have remnants of a system of oceanfront pioneer species and scrub species and things like that that we can also depend on other than mechanical or other solutions. Not to say that's not the way to go, especially when you look at 82 now as it goes east and west, and you see the debris on the north side of the road. And of course, we saw the road go away not that many years ago. But anyway, we do have these various indigenous species, and we have planted them. Dick Burbank back here and his wife Nancy planted them by hand, and Mary Gay and I helped do that. And then, of course, there was a nonprofit coastal restoration program that planted hundreds of thousands of these plants. And really, they will always be a part of the formula for the protection of this oceanfront. They will, as they did just recently in the last few weeks with the tropical storm, they will take the shock. They will take the shock, the brunt of the water. And so I suppose I would encourage all of us to think about the simple and easy way to do it, and that is to, wherever the situation allows, and it doesn't allow that on 82 and big parts of that road, that we should have a program or programs that plant back these native materials. We have these pioneer species. We've got a good stand. I just noticed the famous sea oats. And sea oats, you know, they're all over Florida, north to south, both coasts. And it's against the law even to pull one up. And the system in Florida is such that you can depend on the vegetation, not just on mechanical solutions. And believe me, I'm for mechanical solutions if they work. But again, in long range, our plants are going to be very, very, very important. And I encourage everybody to become involved in that, to encourage it, even maybe get out there and do a little bit of it yourself. It won't hurt you, I guarantee. Thank you very much, and let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Don't be surprised if you don't get a call.
Yeah. Remember that retirement thing?
Yeah, but you offered. Mr. Steve?
Good morning, gentlemen. thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. My name is Sherry Seat, and I live at 116 Bell Street in Gulf Breeze, and I have maintained that address now for over 14 years. Just a little bit of information, in my 64 years, I have maintained that address longer than any other in my 64 years. And although we had to evacuate for 2 hurricanes, I still maintain that address. As most of the people that do know me, they know I am very passionate about this coastal erosion. And as I came here over 14 years ago, I let people know that I was totally ignorant of the coastal erosion. And what I mean by ignorant, it does not mean stupid. I was recently told that there are some people that mean that. If you understand, ignorance means not knowing, uninformed. I learned, and for people that do know me, I have learned more than I had ever anticipated I would learn about this area. My love for this area, I can't even begin to describe. As I learn more about the coastal erosion and what we're losing, it saddens me deeply, but it saddens me more deeply that there are people here in Cameron Parish that have apathy, and they have actually told me, I don't want to know. So I guess what I'm saying is, I am here today along with several of my friends, and we are not complacent people. We will do whatever it takes to save if we have to get out there and do it ourselves. Now, in reference to my friend Mr. Turner, yes, we do have the vegetation does help. I saw that on Gulf Breeze Beach. Some of it was washed away, some that wasn't as well rooted, but it does work. And recently, my neighbor and I walking the beach, the sea oats that were already brown were already coming back. But going back to a meeting that several of you were at the CRCL, where they were talking about the master plan. Vegetation will help slow it down, but what is actually going to stop it? And in my community in Gulf Breeze Beach, a good friend, beach friend of mine, and a well-known gentleman, businessman in Sulphur, as of about 35 years ago, and I should have brought my picture, showed you all, as of almost 35 years ago, is my understanding from his wife, he knew what was coming, way ahead of anybody else. He actually brought in a huge barge full of his own, he paid for this himself, of concrete, and put it along that area. It is still there, sirs, but of course, we've lost some of it. But that's what kept the people in my area on the east side of Gulf Breeze Beach from any water, and I have pictures to actually prove that. That does work, and so I think everybody agreed at that meeting that rock does work. How to go about getting this, I don't know, but I am definitely outspoken about this. I even try to educate people what I have learned. It's very important because as we saw at that meeting and what it showed with the master plan, if we don't have coastal protection, we're going to be gone in about 50 years. So we do need to do something. I'm here to say that I'll do whatever it takes. I do have sea oats in my yard, and I'm going to be pulling them up by the roots and planting them on the beach myself. So I appreciate you letting me speak here today, but I am proactive about this and will stay that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sherry. We don't normally do this, but unless you fill a card out, but is there anybody else who'd like to say something? You're more than welcome to step up and do that.
Scooter Trosclair with Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge, the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. We, just to give a little history, we've worked on shoreline protection for over 15 years. The guys ahead of me have been fighting this battle with the extreme rates of land loss that we witnessed, which back then were around 50 feet a year. We're now recording up to 133 feet in 9 months. Especially with this last tropical system, we haven't got those numbers in yet, but it's within a day or two exceeded over 40 feet. It's a little bit different on our end with the shale hash that exists, whereas Rutherford Beach, Little Florida, Long Beach, you may have more sand. The first hurdle we had to cross was geotech, and then coming up with a design and presenting to the state. The issues are not local. Everybody is concerned. Everybody realizes what's going on. And it's where we live, and we don't want to see the long-term effects that will come from this extreme erosion rates. So we came up with a design that was just awarded ME18. We got $30 million. We're hoping to see construction hopefully by the first of next year. The estimates were exceeding close to $10 million a mile. Now again, understand, the rock cannot sit unless the foundation is modified, so the cost was estimated to be extremely high. The base bid was 2 miles. The estimates were about $1,900 a foot. Estimates the awarded bid was $1,275. So we actually have $10 million sitting left on the table, which we permitted 9 miles. We went ahead and permitted 9 miles just for the case of, oil fields down, there's potential there could be extra money come in with low bids. So we're going to extend it to hopefully this would come out to almost 5 miles. This is a continuous breakwater. It is segmented, but it's overlapping. But in the situation with these other beaches, it could be a lot cheaper. Why the state hasn't come in and investigate what would be the best method, I think Ryan has sent multiple emails to try to get this going. Met with Ryan a couple times with what information we had. I think the geotech would be the first step. The second step would be meeting with engineers to come up with a design. Then you take that to the state, because we may all approve this, but you still have to go through the permitting process, which is a pain. And so you need to have your ducks in a row. You really don't have time to waste. You got infrastructure, you got industry that's coming into this parish. We have to stabilize. And I know we have a lot of coastal restoration projects, but again, my recommendation to this jury is we need to be focusing on the sources of the problem, of why we're having to rebuild the marshes on the inside, why we're spending state and federal money for marsh creation of eroded property on the internal marsh area, wetland areas. We need to be focusing on the intercoastal waterways, and we need to be focusing on the shoreline stabilization projects. And we need to promote those. We need to get the message out to the state. They hear it from us every time we meet, but they need to get letters, and they need to hear it from everybody. Because again, they look at population, they look at what have you, and the money is just not coming to Southwest Louisiana the way it should with what we have and what we're fixing to lose. So again, anything I can help with, there's no doubt we'll put whatever staff we have to help the parish with any restoration projects as needed.
Thank you, Scooter. Yes, sir.
I'm Johnny Brother, my wife Linda. And we live on Rutherford Beach. We've been there several years now. Moved here because I love it. I love it here. I love it here. I really appreciate all the people that just sometimes if you're out there by yourself, you don't really see. We have a lot of visitors come, they come to Rutherford Beach from all over the world. Germany, Austria, I've met all of them. And from all over the United States too. And, but you know, you love it, you love it. That's why you- Louisiana is just basically just disappeared. Our home will begin to disappear. And I appreciate the gentleman about the plants, because I myself, we have a natural spruce that grows here, green trees you see. I root those and I plant those in my house. And any other thing that I can find, I planted the rosea cane, I try to put it in places. But we've lost about 60 feet since the first of the year. My house is back on the other way, so I'm probably gonna be there for 20 years. By that time, I'll be pretty gone anyway, so it don't matter. But I would love for my grandkids to be able to come. I love for people that come here to have something, because it's a beautiful place. Once that beach gives way and it enters that marsh behind the house, that's where everything grows. You catch in the ocean, it's right there. Places just like once that salt water enters that ends that all that. There won't be any more swimming that way or that way. And now as the mechanical stuff, the man really made me feel good about the mechanical thing that we talked about. The planning is the second stage of that. But we keep losing 50, 60, 100 feet a year. It just breaks your heart. And see people come down there too, like on the four-wheelers and different things. Since we almost have no beach. What we have now, we have a bird, we have section off places that the birds are nesting. Okay, the beach now is getting right to that point that people are going to start driving on our bird nest. Not only just in front of my house, but on down the west, past the Capitol, into Roman Ontario stuff. If people we've had about 40 people get stuck. Since the new sand came in, we've had about 40 people come in there and get stuck with the loose sand. Of course, that's people that don't know how to drive and stuff. That's what they do. They just drive off into it like it's just concrete or something. So if we could maybe put up some signs, maybe some hazard signs to keep people from driving in certain places. You know, it gets to be kind of like a public safety issue. People gonna go down there and get stuck and get hurt trying to get out. Then if we could use it as a public safety issue to limit the access to somebody. Not by foot. Get out of your truck, you can walk for miles. Just miles. Fish miles. It's not like we're trying to limit it. We're trying to protect it. Because we got good things coming. I feel like we have good things coming. But if we allow all the grass to be killed by the vehicles, which we're trying to plant, I'm trying to plant to help us. And I really appreciate Mr. Doctor, what he's done down there. He's come in and he has really tried to make something for people. He had put up fencing and things like that, and people, said putting up the fence, well, it's not going to hold up. Well, see, that's not the point. The point is we need a more. He put the fence up, and wow, the front edge, back edge is still there. The front edge has totally disappeared. But he put the fence back 40 feet from the high tide. What does that take? What's that? And it's a good marker for us. You did. I really appreciate what you're still trying to do. Trying to set up places for people to get out of the vehicle to enjoy the beach. Go swimming. We have kids and stuff like that.
Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I just want to tell you, I love it and I appreciate what you're doing. That your heart's in the right place. And if we can find somebody to put some money in, I think we're going to be able to do it. And we're not doing it just for us. This is for everybody, because there is no beaches from the ferry eastward. The only beach there is Rutherford Beach. From there on, you probably have to go 100 miles to find another beach. That means people from Lake Charles are driving here, Abbeville, Abbeville, they're coming to Rutherford Beach. I would like for it to be there. And I know you do too, because when they come in, they buy what? They buy groceries. And so, and I, like the rest of everybody, I would love to be able to help in some way. When they come and plant grass, I'm there, I do all I can. Most of the grass we planted has now disappeared, just washed out. The trees seem to do better. That's when I started rooting those trees to plant. I'm gonna plant them in areas that, once they get this tall, they have roots as long as they have. Give them root. And they stay there forever. They're assaulted every day by the salt water, just from the west side of Miami. I don't want to be. You drive by and say, they're still, they have been there for 100 years. And they're still. And what happens when all this water comes in, the sand comes in, when it goes back out, they hold it till the next time. So, anyway, I really appreciate me and Linda will do anything we can. We live right there, but we're not going anywhere. We got this little storm the other day, and my wife said she looked out. I was sleeping. I didn't eat. She looked out the window by daylight, and all that thing was just rolling in. Of course, it filled our road up to sand, but that's the way what it is. And Mr. Doctor come out there and measure the way out. My wife, she has everything. We have to go to the doctor. She comes and makes it work.
You just giving him a figure.
I know it. I know it.
Bigger.
But you'll have to admit, he does care about this place. He does care about this place, just like everybody else that we all care about. So I really appreciate your time, appreciate what you're doing. My wife sends pictures and stuff into the newspaper all the time. Her name is out there. Everybody that comes down, the people from the Ordnance Society, Miss Kate, I think her name is Kate, I think from Napa. Yeah, very nice young lady. She comes out, I call her, I said, I found a bunch of nests down here. Come out there and she put out the sign. It's great. I mean, now people don't think, well, birds, what's that got to do? People come here from all over Louisiana. They're looking for our birds. Because they're beautiful. When people come in from other places, they have never seen stuff like this. But we have, yes, we just kind of take it for granted. They come and they love it. And I love it. Thank you so much.
Sir, can you state your name again, please?
Johnny Wood. We live on 186 Cameron Drive. We've been here for, I think, well, I've been coming here all my life. But now, I finally come up with enough money to build a little house. I said, if I don't do this, I'm going to die a miserable man. And so I finally did it.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I'll be brief, but first and foremost, I guess my name is Chad Corville. I'm the land manager for Miami Corporation, fairly large landholder in Cameron Parish. And while we don't own any Gulf shoreline, we recognize its importance. But a couple things I wanted to mention. One, I wanted to commend your parish administrator. He and his staff have fought tirelessly at all these state and federal meetings, and we've been there with him and with y'all. What I'll say though, and something that needs to be considered in this whole process, if we're going to get prioritization to the Gulf shoreline of Cameron Parish, is we've got to convince CPRA that that is a priority, because the facts are, we've looked at it every single year that Whipper ranking comes and goes, the parish's priorities are getting outvoted by the state and federal agencies. And it's just the nature of the program. Frankly, I'd argue it's maybe one of the most biased processes out there in public process, and I can say that because I don't work for the state, I don't work for the federal government, and I don't work for the parish government. But I'll say it, and I've said it a bunch, and I'll say it again. Cameron Parish's priorities will not get implemented until either that process changes or we get CPRA to back what we want. A classic example is the beach nourishment they did right there at Holly Beach. They pumped a pile of sand, spent a pile of my taxpayer money and all of yours. And then, when they have an opportunity to protect it with a hard structure, refuse to give it up. But I'm not asking for all of them, but you got to give me something. Well, after you've invested that kind of my taxpayer money, we're losing the fight at the political level. Obviously, you guys know what politics are. Somehow, some way, we either have to get the attention of our local delegation, our federal delegation, and you guys. Ryan and his staff have done a tireless job, but we are one group fighting against 5 federal agencies. And 1 against 5, you lose every time, twice on Sunday. So either we have to restructure the way those votes are ranked or characterized. I've argued for this for years. You don't see that in the East. In the East, you have more parishes, and they can outvote those state and federal agencies. We don't have that. We got Cameron, Vermillion, and Calcasieu Parish. Even 3 against 5, you lose every day, twice on Sunday. So either we have to get CPRA, because CPRA is the driving force in all of this. The federal agencies seem to fall in line with CPRA's priorities. We've argued till we're blue in the face, and CPRA will say every excuse under the sun. But I think if they came today and went and saw the impacts of marginal at best, or at least we thought, Tropical Storm Cindy's impacts on that beach, and the money, our money, they invested on that beach and yet refused to protect with federal dollars and their votes, it's obvious. So there is a solution. We've got to figure out a way to get the parish's priorities implemented in these state and federal plans, and then when it comes to allocating money to those state and federal plans, somehow, some way, we have to make these federal agencies recognize and follow Cameron Parish's priorities. We don't always come up with the best projects every time. Look, we get that. But that's what those people are supposed to be doing at the technical level, refining what we think we want to do and what we think we need to do. That's their jobs. They're service agencies. We come up with the ideas, they should refine them. Well, the process is completely flipped. You go to any of these regional planning team meetings, and I invite any of you guys to come in January, and you're going to see it. We go to those meetings to protect our property's honor, because we get state and federal agencies proposing projects that they've never run in front of us. Yet they act like they care what we want. And the facts are they don't. So I'm going to get off my soapbox for the fear of extending this meeting. You guys all know my thoughts on this. But we stand with Cameron Parish to do whatever we can to back you guys up. But that's where it's at. And again, I want to champion what Ryan has been doing over the years. He's getting some attention. But when it's time to vote, he can't vote for him. And somehow we need to hold those people accountable. But I guarantee you look at the last 10 years of QIPRA voting, and you're going to see that the parish's priorities have not ranked out when it comes time to funding. So I don't know how we fix it, except maybe embarrassing them into finally paying attention to what we want and need down here. Thanks again. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I can't remember what he said. Ryan and his staff has been working endless for the last 2 years to try to get some of this work done, and like you said, to no avail. But I think he's got a plan, and I'm asking to kind of explain it to you this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Fountain, and thank everyone for your comments. It really is helpful. And if we'd have known we'd have had such a good turnout at a police jury meeting, we'd have started scheduling them at the school board office a long time ago. So thanks to the school board and Mr. Atkins and his staff for making us feel welcome. First of all, before I get into some summary discussions, let's just all take a look at what just transpired. And so many of the individuals who came up and spoke to us today have been very good at sending us correspondence in the office. They have done a great job of maintaining an open line of communication with us, and we have put their efforts and supplemented what we had ongoing, and this is going to help. We are all in the same boat. We all have to be rowing in the same direction. We have to make sure no one's drilling holes in the boat also, and sometimes that happens. But we have issues, as Scooters referenced, all the way at the east end. We have Callstone's Beach that maybe not be listed. So let's just say from Sabine to Superior, we have Gulf shoreline protection issues in Cameron Parish. We're going to focus on these three issues just to illustrate the point. And mainly because with Cindy we have some updated data and photos, visual aids. So Long Beach Road, we've had some issues out there for quite some time. Mr. Falk can tell you about that. Ms. Mock can tell you about that. Long Beach Road is the shoreline protection in that area. And here's what it looked like a day after Cindy. Typically, when you look at this photo on the left, this is the southern end of the roadbed. All the material that is here used to be here. You can tell a little bit better from this angle. Basically, the road has been transported to the north. You have homes, again, on either end of the road that are certainly going to have impediments to the access of their property from this impact. When you move on to Little Florida, similar instances, there was some referencing. This is the borrow pit that Mr. Burrows was discussing. Here's the subdivision itself. Previously, you can see the vegetated areas between the road and the shoreline. And when you stand at the site, you can clearly see that there's a dune in the distance, and there was another dune to the left of where this photo was taken, but you can clearly see in between the two dunes, materials are gone. So you have the Gulf, you have a stretch of a beach head, and you have the Parish Road. Just looking straight out to the Gulf from standing on the road, this is your view. So again, serious issue. We look at Rutherford Beach. Again, majority of these photos were taken by individuals who spoke on the record today or provided these photos to the Cameron Pilot, or even went so far as having KPLC come out and do a story on the area. We have an issue. I mean, we have a problem. Clearly, we can see it. So, I think in order to put this into context, we are going to try and give a brief background on what it has taken us effort-wise to get to where we are today. I'm going to preface my comments with it's never fast enough, even for us. Even for us as staff, we most certainly would like to do things in a more expeditious manner. However, with the 2017 State Master Plan and the 2016 Southwest Coastal Study, you can recall the number of public meetings, private meetings, emails, visits in Baton Rouge, conference calls, webinars, visits in DC with the Corps of Engineers staff themselves. We fought to get these areas even acknowledged in what Mr. Corfield referenced as state and federal plans. From our perspective, that was the first step. We have to acknowledge and have our priorities acknowledged by these agencies as having value to the state and federal level. It's, of course, of value to us. They are the funding agencies. We had to fight to get included in their plans. So the Southwest Coastal Study, there are areas from the Ship Channel westward that are included. for shoreline protection in the Southwest Coastal Study. In the 2017 State Master Plan, which we began working with the CPRA in 2013 on what our priorities were at the time, and still are to this day, we engaged our locals. Our locals told us, if we did not protect the Gulf shoreline, what were we trying to protect? It is your first line of defense. That was unanimous from our coastal committee. That's made up of landowners, drainage board members, fishermen, state and federal agencies, elected officials, state elected officials, all participated. Gulf shoreline protection was the absolute priority. That was referenced by this jury in consistently submitting the East Holly Beach Shoreline Protection Project as our top-ranked whipper project some 6 or 7 years in a row now. To no avail, but again, the effort was made to have our priorities acknowledged. And it wasn't until the most recent version of the State Master Plan that any reference to Gulf shoreline protection was included for Cameron Parish. It took to the very end to have it included. And the area included was namely from the ship channel eastward. So again, we have areas that still are problematic and issues still that need to be addressed. But right now we have an acknowledgement. So Mr. Charles Clare referenced the geotech. I feel that's where we are right now. So let's get into that discussion. What is our next step? Our immediate next step. So the staff visited with the CPRA, and as I mentioned, shoreline protection is included in their master plan. We've referenced the fact that nearly 70 alternatives were looked at Rockefeller on how best to protect the shoreline. There was state and federal funds that went into that. I think when you take a trip out to Rockefeller and you see it with your own eyes, it doesn't take an engineer to figure out some things work and some things didn't. For us, what we have been told by the CPRA is what area is your priority and how do you think it should be fixed? We're to a point now where we have fought to get acknowledged, and now we have to do the next step of our due diligence in developing these programs, which were referenced earlier, which, full disclosure, we lack at this point in time. And there's a reason for that. We did not want to spend the taxpayer money developing things that weren't going to be acknowledged by state and federal agencies who would eventually assist us in funding them. So the process has been basically laid out for some time now. We've stuck to the plan. So now it's time to move into the next phase. And let's get things developed. The CPRA, unfortunately at this point, does not have a lot of funding to assist us in developing this plan, to do things like Mr. Charles Clare referenced, geotechnical work in these areas. So our guidance has been, you develop your priorities, you tell us what needs to be done out there, provide us an estimated cost, and we'll look at it. That's from the CPRA's perspective. So now, what we're looking at, let's move on to another agency. We had a visit with the Corps of Engineers recently, specifically to discuss water resource programs. Those are grant funds and cost share funding that are relative to construction and planning. The staff has compiled general summaries and provided to the Corps, and we have received somewhat of an approval to move forward to our next step with looking at this. Mr. Scooter hit it right on the head. We have all these things going on. Have we identified and addressed the problem? And I think right now that's where we are. And we heard it from some of the individuals in their testimony today. I think our next step there is a funding source through the Corps of Engineers. It's called the Planning Assistance to States Program. This is a 50-50 cost share that the parish would fund 50% of these costs. What the costs are at this point, we're unsure. But what we have been told in our correspondence to this point is all it's going to take from our point of view is a letter of intent to the Corps of Engineers saying we have identified Gulf shoreline protection as an issue for Cameron Parish. That is our problem. What we are looking for from you is assistance in developing the alternatives that would eventually solve a portion of our problem. It can somewhat be our solution. There's probably not going to be an end-all be-all, but to take that first step in working with these federal agencies, by having a federal agency assist us in developing the solution to our problem, it is our best chance at having state and federal funds allocated to projects in our parish that will only leverage more funds. So we can take our coastal dollars that may come from GOMESA or that may come from Restore Act, and we can implement some projects. Boy, it would be so much nicer to take our $1 million and turn it into a $5 million investment, or take our $10 million and turn it into a $50 million investment. And of course, this will no doubt take time and money. And there is some hesitancy. You all recall the public meetings we had with the Southwest Coastal Study. They were contentious. The Corps was the project manager for that program. We had some problems, but we worked through it. So in this instance, I think, as it relates to our general, large-scale, long-term problem, we have a funding opportunity that has presented itself. And yes, it is with a federal agency. At this point, we need to make lemonade out of lemons. If we can get a federal agency to work with us to address shoreline protection problems for Cameron Parish along our Gulf Coast, that will give us, we feel, the justification, the data that we need to go back to these other funding sources and say, not only does Cameron Parish think this is what needs to be done, as we have told you consistently over the last 4 years, but here's what a federal agency thinks should also be done. In theory, it should also assist us in permitting. Will it? We have no idea. Just don't know. Okay? But you would think that the Corps assisting with the design of a project would lend to a more expedited permitting process when their engineers developed it and they would be reviewing the permit. So where we are right now, in summary, we have placed ourselves in an ideal situation to be listed and acknowledged in federal and state plans. Our Cameron Coastal Plan has unequivocally stated that Gulf shoreline protection is our priority, from the Sabine to the Superior, without question. Now we have to play the cards that we were dealt, and we are going to engage these agencies who will have some funds, who will review, as has been mentioned, whatever project it is. Even if we had $10 million to do whatever we wanted, these agencies would still have a say. If we engage them now, up front, and we work through some of these issues and make sure that local content and local institutional knowledge is not foregone, maybe we stand a better chance at the end of the day. Now, that's long term. Short term, we have identified issues. We're working as a staff on ways to mitigate immediately some of those issues. We have some ideas. We have ideas from local residents. We have ideas from professionals. There are certain things that we can reach out in a cost-effective manner and maybe stop some of the bleeding, so to speak. It will not fix the problem. That's the long-term solution. But what it might do is buy us some time. Because what I was trying to pull up is the map put out by the CPRA. Just yesterday, we toured the Oyster Bayou Marsh Creation Project. Oyster Bayou Marsh Creation Project is a $30 million project that is north of Highway 82, not far from the Gulf, east of Holly Beach. We have used that project and several other state and federal projects to the tune of about $100 million to justify fortifying that first line of defense along the Gulf. As has been clearly stated, we haven't had much luck. But just yesterday, when you look at the benefits of doing that marsh creation project, it's benefiting everyone to the north. And no residents that live immediately adjacent or immediately north of Oyster Bayou. So the benefits are derived from pipelines under the ground, from the flora and fauna in that area, the infrastructure located underneath it and to the north of it. How is that not the case for a shoreline protection project? How do we not derive benefits from something that is located on the Gulf shoreline? How can we be told that the benefits of a segmented rock breakwater project at Rockefeller Refuge only benefit the approximately 150 acres immediately behind the rocks, ignoring the fact that there's 50,000 acres of marsh immediately behind those rocks? So we do have a problem. We have to illustrate this problem, and I feel that last August we had Cameron Coastal Day. We had the governor's cabinet come down. Rockefeller was gracious enough to put those individuals in airboats. Our congressional delegation was here. Our U.S. senators were here. They looked at it. They grabbed the shell hash in their hand and let it fall through their hand. They literally watched the shoreline erode. But there's a disconnect between what those elected officials are seeing and what benefits we're getting out of these agencies. So I think in summary, we are trying to position ourselves as best we can. I think we are blessed in the fact that we have this many people here. And I would encourage everyone who is here, when you see a Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana meeting, or a Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority meeting, or a public meeting for a QUIPRA project, whether it be the regional planning team meeting, which we will nominate projects again next year. We nominate them every January. We all have to stay engaged, because what we're going to be told is, you're 7,000 people. At the end of the day, you're 7,000 people. We have to make our voices heard. So I'm very proud that we have so many people here today. That is a great first step. And unfortunately for them, we're going to keep them engaged. We're going to keep them involved. We have to maintain open lines of communication. There has to be petitions. There has to be letters of support. There has to be involvement in all forms and levels of government. And so again, I'm proud that we are to this point where we have done our due diligence to have someone acknowledge what we're trying to do, but now we have to take the next step. As a jury, you have to take the next step, move forward, whatever means necessary. So our immediate next step, we have a letter drafted to go to the Corps of Engineers immediately that expresses our intent to participate in some of these programs, both construction-wise and planning-wise. We've been told that it is a lengthy process for construction, 1 to 6 years is the best that they've seen. So that's difficult to accept. However, the planning side of it is between 3 and 9 months. It's a little bit different. We can work with them on that. If we have concrete reports and models an analysis that clearly define what the problem is and also provide a wide range of solutions. Groins have been recommended. Segmented breakwaters have been recommended. Mixing a solution with the shale hash has been recommended. Renourishing the beach with sand from offshore has been recommended. Oh, by the way, those have all been implemented. Majority of those in Cameron Parish already. The demo project at Rockefeller was the perfect example of putting in a minimal amount of money to figure out what will work, and then you just extrapolate that. So I think today we're in a decent position to move some things forward. We will request patience, even though that's difficult to do at times. It is. So we will request patience, but at any point in time, when we begin to engage these agencies, we most certainly have to have our residents, landowners, industries, pull them with us. Because we can't do it by ourselves. We've learned that. So again, I thank everyone for their time. This has been a great discussion. Probably overdue. But again, this has been a great discussion that needed to happen. We will, we have these meetings every month. And at any point in time when any interested party wants it put on the agenda for an update, we welcome that. It holds us accountable as a staff. We like that. We like that. We really do. It gives me an opportunity to chew some butt from time to time. Well, and talk, but that's given. Everybody knows that. So again, I appreciate everyone's efforts, and I think that we are getting close. And if the jury, we do not need any action today, but your blessing to move forward with what has been delineated is really what we need. We can, as a staff, we can submit that letter. It does not have, no action needs to be taken now. What the Corps will do is they will review what is being proposed. They will determine that there is a federal interest. Okay? And so the federal interest is, just for the Rockefeller project, $356 million worth of infrastructure and residences and businesses and churches and evacuation routes and pipelines. This project right here, this map that we developed with our GIS program, because the benefits are only coming from that 150 acres. The statement was made yesterday at the Oyster Bayou project. Well, an individual who was not from this state, much less this country, asked a very simple question. Well, what would happen if this project were not constructed? And to paraphrase, the response was, what has transpired in the southeast would be what happens here next. We cannot use what has transpired in the southeast as our status quo or our goals or as the model for how we should move forward. The CPRA's own map in this same area, 50 years is already. We'll be living in Lake Austin. So you want to know why we need to start at the Gulf shoreline? That's why. It'll buy us more time. It's our first line of defense. So again, thank you, and we'll be in touch. But if it's the pleasure of the jury, we will move forward the letter of intent. The Corps looks into the federal interests. We will do as diligent of a job as we can to express why there is a federal interest. At that point in time that the determination is made that there is a federal interest and we can move forward, there will be subsequent agreements that need to come, the cost share agreement and the path forward, the design framework on the study itself. That will come before the full jury for your ratification. And I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you, Ron.
Point of order, Mr. President. Would you entertain questions from the audience for this unique meeting?
No,
Dr.
what
Ron.
is it? Anybody
Fine.
have
Hi, Dr. Kevin Duke, Your Honor, from Western Beach. Two questions for you. Would you elaborate more on what you mentioned as your short-term transient solutions, whether it be mechanical or not? And secondly, for those of us living close in the water here,
best case scenario, if we were to put to you the case of break orders, we're looking up to maybe 7 years before we would see them, no more?
Yes, immediately, we have some options that can protect some areas. Unfortunately, some of the immediate measures probably aren't relevant to rough. Because it's a different.
Sandbagging, or what?
Right, you're looking, there are some there's some concrete pilings that can be looked at, fill material, vegetated areas, things like that, that could be costly and would not take a lengthy amount of time to get in. So specifically, that's what we're looking at. On the breakwaters issue, Scooter and his project at Rockefeller, it's a pretty good indication. If you're going through equipment, that's how long it would take. However, we have been told that GOMESA funds will be put back into the president's budget. We feel that after looking at all of our options, engaging the Corps in this process puts us in line for an expedited permit. Whether it happens that way or not, that's a whole nother issue. But it puts us in a favorable position to at least make the argument that it should be expedited. GOMESA funds should start next year. And that's coastal money. You know, there's coastal money involved. Restore Act, again, is coastal money. We have to, if we're going to capitalize on these funds that are going to present themselves at the state federal level, we have to make it easy for them to say yes. And so, in our opinion, the best path forward is to engage these agencies, start with design, work on permitting. And when we have a job that is shovel ready, it should not take us as long. Because what Scooter will tell you, the demonstration project took some time. The federal agencies didn't want to invest in those projects or those 68 alternatives until they knew which one would be most effective. And so from their perspective, that 6 years was in design and analysis, which didn't take much analysis. You can go out there and look at it yourself and see which ones worked and which ones didn't. So I think that, I know I'm not trying to evade the question on the length of time, and I've learned in my short time on this earth, never provide a time frame, but I can tell you that the QIPRA projects, and right now, QIPRA is the only dedicated revenue stream that is available annually. It took 12 years to get that implemented. You have to get buy-in from the state and feds first. I think if we do our due diligence and making it a little bit more difficult for them to, number one, ignore us, and number two, to disagree with us, I honestly feel that that's going to be improved. That time frame will be improved. You're going to get back to eventually a discussion of other available funds and what will the parish have available, be the bond out, that state and feds, they will have a say in what is constructed out there. But if it's the parish funding it 100%, it sure does mitigate the amount of influence they can have in the process. They're still going to permit it, but we have some data in this parish from projects that they have implemented that surely are relevant. And so even if we fund it ourselves, they will be involved, but I think it'll be mitigated. I hate to say it that way, but that's kind of what we're shooting.
Any other questions for Ms. Boyan? Please ask. Yes, sir.
Urban Devo, Blue Floor Beach, thank you very much for the presentation. The long-range plans really sound good. Looking at the short-term plans, I heard where Rutherford Beach was not included. Could you expound a little bit on what areas you're thinking on and what can the landowners in those areas do to assist you in moving forward?
We have been offered by, and I'm not sure there's other public things, probably some documents we have to go through between now and then, but we have been offered some materials that could be placed there, specifically at Little Florida, because there's a parish road and a parish right-of-way. So there wouldn't be any easements, right-of-ways having to be acquired, that those exist in that area. Similar to Long Beach, there are right-of-ways that exist in that area. There have been demo projects that McNeese State University implemented on Long Beach Road that Mr. Falk was involved in, Ms. Mock was involved in, that we feel did work. The difference is there's something to work with there. It's not just the beach. There's infrastructure that is immediately adjacent. So it's unfortunate that Rutherford is not included in that same type of construction manner to address the immediate issue. But they're not going to be left out. I mean, they're involved in this discussion from day one. And if something presents itself, you know, right now, Weeks Marine is dredging 5 miles offshore. Mobendimo, as many of us know, is the largest portion of many of our construction projects. I think their timelines are going to be sporadic and maybe somewhat lengthy at times. There are other waterstation projects in the queue that will be using offshore borrow sites to provide that setting. So in the event that you have a contractor in the area, you have a material that is suitable to that environment, and you have a federal agency that has been involved and understands the emergency nature of the project, of the issues, it should be executed. And so, without committing to a lot of different things, we're confident in saying that there were players involved in past projects and in ongoing projects who we will stay engaged here. And so I think that the options are there. I think the options are concrete. And then there's some other options that are going to take some work and take some.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Linda Pruitt. I'm his other half. I just wanted to say, I'm a very visual person. You've got to show me. And when I stop and think about it taking 7 years to implement some of these actions, our home is built 200 feet back from the beach. I think when we originally built it, it was probably 300 feet back. If we lose an average of 50 feet a year, I'm just using that number to throw out at you. 50 feet a year in 7 years, what are you looking at? 350 feet. There will be no Rutherford Beach left. Every year that we are delayed or detained or held up by all the bureaucratic red tape, and I know you have to go through the processes. I was in business for 22 years, and I understand it's one step at a time. It's one day at a time. When Johnny and I get out and walk in the mornings, we'll go 2 to 3 miles, and he's constantly pulling up these roots. And when we first started doing this, I'm thinking, what are you doing? Pulling up these roots and replanting them closer to the water's edge, trying to get vegetation started. As he said, we have a lot of people come since the restrictions that they have at Holly Beach now. Everyone is flooding to Rutherford Beach. We've been there 4 years. The first 2.5 years we were there, there was very little activity down there. You come down there any given Saturday and Sunday now, that place is packed. It's not just the trucks on the beach, it's the campers that are going to the beach. And Mr. Doxey has done a good job about getting us parking and the pavilion and everything, trying to keep people off of the beach. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand why that has been done. What we want to see and what I would like to see is that we get the same considerations that Holly Beach has been given. I don't think that's asking too much. I am concerned about the timeline. And I know that there's going to be holdups and delays and whatever. What if it takes 10 years? We don't have 10 years. I can't say that we've got 7 years. Our neighbors that are in the front and to the west of us, the Hawks, when they built their home, and their home was shown in the pictures at Rutherford, this is their home here. What you're seeing in this third picture to the right, that's their little tiki hut. When they originally built, they didn't build that close to the water. People need to understand when they look at that, a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't have built that close. Well, they didn't. They have 2 lots in front of their home that is totally underwater, that they pay tax on. They are now looking at having to either lose the home or move it back, which is very costly. And that's what they're trying to get done. Because as I said, and as they know, they don't even have a year for their home. So I know it takes time. I know how politics work. I was in insurance for 22 years. Talk about politics, okay? We don't have 7 years. We really don't. I don't see how we can wait even 3, 4 years. If we are losing an average of what, even 50, 100 feet a year, 4 years, there will be no Rutherford Beach. All we want is the same consideration that Holly Beach has been given. Johnny was correct. We have introduced ourselves to people from Germany, from Austria, from, what was it, France. People all over the United States come to see what we have. 4 years, it's not going to be here. So I say we get started. The sooner we get started, the better. We'll do whatever we can. He's already volunteered my help, so I know I'm going to work. That's fine. I'll do anything. I just don't want to see any more homes in danger as the Hawks. I think it's sad. As I said, people will look at this and say, well, you shouldn't have built so close to the beach. That's not what they did. We've done everything we could. When Johnny first started saying, take pictures of this, take pictures of that, and I'm going, Now I understand more fully why. The pictures are going into the Cameron Pilot, KPLC News. I'm guilty. I sent an email to KPLC News. Yes, they came out that very night of the storm. And I'll tell you, the one thing that he didn't say was when I got up in the early hours of the morning of the tropical storm and I looked out my door and I saw waves of 6 and 7 feet, just a solid wall of water. It scared the out of me. And I watched that water break and go over that beach. And it sucked it all back out. Time is of the utmost importance here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pruitt. And you know, I hope no one took my comments as that being acceptable or that being our goal.
No.
But the staff would be providing a disservice to the jury and to all of you to even give a timeline that would be much more, I guess, of an improvement. And so, you know, we are going to work very diligently on this to shorten that time frame. But if it were 100% within our control, I would not mind giving you a timeline. But we would be providing a disservice to everyone here, including ourselves, if we even tried to assume what that time frame would be. We can commit, though, to working as hard as we can to expedite.
One thing you gotta understand is, believe me, we wanna get this done as soon as possible. There's nothing else that we can probably do for the mayor. Problem is, Ryan is supposed to lose before. This is federal government, state government. We don't have the money in this parish to do what we need to do. We don't have the money. Sorry. We're strapped right now. So what we're trying to do is get this through the state and federal government. That's why Ryan and his staff has been through the state and federal offices multiple times a week for the last 2 years. And he's going to keep doing that. He and his staff are going to keep doing that until we can get somebody to understand that we're in a bind down here and we need their help. please understand, we feel your pain. Because we know that if we lose our beaches on either side of this parish, where it's gonna be. I've already explained to the mayor of Lake Charles and everybody else up there, and so is all these other gentlemen sitting up here, and sit down with these people and explain to them where the beach is gonna be in the near future if we don't get some help. So that's why Ryan and his staff is doing their utmost to try to get this taken care of, and we will not stop, okay? After you've heard, he had something to say.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate all y'all are doing. You know, I've been remiss in not staying involved. Was involved with the coalition for a number of years when I first come down here, about 15 years. I got really disillusioned. You know, they're building islands in Barataria Bay and they're planting grass in Holly Beach. So I guess what I want to say is if you'll keep me, you got my email, let me know where I need to be, what I need to do, and I'll try to gather the truth.
Perfect.
Like, when I built January the 5th, we finished the pavilion and we fenced in over a quarter of a mile, 60-foot deep, squared around, and now we have about maybe 15 foot of that left, 10 foot. All the signs too, gotta get with all signs.
Time to go.
Yes, sir.
That was a doom.
My name's Steve Brown. I live at the end of West Avenue at Rutherford Beach. And my house is right down from where those poles are. And when that storm came ashore, it was hitting my trailer. It was a scary night. And there's no beach, there's no golf drive left. They put barricades up on West Avenue. People just go through them and throw them off to the side. I go out to pull them back. One lady tried to run me over with her golf cart. I mean, it's bad. They're swearing at my wife, calling her an F and B. And I told her from now on, we're just calling the police. So one thing we could do to help is put some signs up, road closed, or soft sand, so 40 cars a weekend aren't getting stuck.
And these people are not paying attention to those signs.
They don't obey the law.
They come from
They
all
come
over.
from all over, run over, what little beach is left, they're tearing it to pieces.
They're not obeying the signs.
It's like Little Florida, I was out there last weekend, all weekend long, and the people was driving all over the dunes.
Yeah.
Specifically had signs still up there saying don't drive on the dunes. So, we need, I'm sorry y'all, we've got to move on, okay, if y'all don't mind. If you have anything else on the subject, please get with Brian and his staff. If you need numbers to call, the phone calls bother people, you don't realize how much it bothers people. I'm talking about not us, but like that.
Now, you want to qualify that statement.
Clarify that.
You can call my cell at any time.
Tell our staff to call me at any time. Everybody knows that, everybody can. So, please, if you have any questions, if you need any numbers, or you need any addresses, please call the office. They will be more than happy to help you. They're very good at what they do, and they really are want to help people, so.
You know, Mr. President, if I can make a suggestion, it seems like a lot of our discussion, it's centered today around the restoration side, but it seems like we have other issues on those beaches. This may not be the proper purview to address a lot of that. Maybe if the staff can facilitate a meeting with some of the beachfront development districts, of both of them in our office, sit down and work through some of these issues, because, I mean, I'm just going to tell you, my in-laws have a camp in Grand Isle, and they've been there since the 1900s. You can get as regulated or not, as you want. You have to permit a golf cart to the tune of $150 a year, and no other vehicular access is allowed. And they pound people on it. And there are only 3 public spots to park along all of Grand Isle. So you carry everything, I know, because I carried it for the wife, and of course the ice chest. I've been dealing with John for a little while, I'm sorry. The ice chest takes priority. You're carrying that thing a long ways, you know? I mean, it's just hard. Well, we're investing in a golf cart permit next year, but, so we can get as regulated as we want, but that's gonna be a change in culture and a change in activity, and it's just, we all need to discuss what our options are, and I think if we can get the beachfront development districts to, we don't need to wait till the next police jury meeting. Mary can work on setting something up, we can get a couple members of both boards, and whoever wants to be involved, it's just a discussion, it's a public discussion. Let's talk about what the issues are, so the staff can better understand, and we can provide the research on what other beaches are doing, not, maybe Galveston and Destin, but maybe Grand Isle, Biloxi, Sycamore Point, areas like that. What can we do that is relevant to us? Because we want to implement something that tries to turn us into the Emerald Coast or Pensacola or Orange Beach. We're camping. We're still camping at the end of the day.
And we're one of the only beaches that vehicles can actually drive on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's something to look at.
If you don't
And
have,
let's-
you don't have any, they do not allow you to drive on the beach because it destroys the beaches. Okay, we have a good beach board in my district, District 1. We have a very good beach board. Another beach board on the Rutherford side. Yeah, you gotta do it. Still, like Ryan said, if you can get together and go to the office and meet together and maybe come up with some plans. I know the beach board on my district, they work very diligently. Mark and that group does a really good job. They're doing their best to stop all this. You have to stop it, but they're moving towards it. So anybody wants to get together with them, please contact both these beach boards because they have the same concerns that you have, and they need your help. They need everybody's help that they can get.
What I'm trying to do is, for anyone who is here, I'm trying to find something that I can type.
And before you leave here today, and you're more than welcome to stay through the meeting, we just moved on to this subject so we can get it, make sure nobody left before we let you.
For those of you interested, mcarroll@cameronpj.org. If you're interested in participating in that future scheduled meeting, please email Mary your contact information, and we will go through and make sure you stay involved whether you want to or not, and of course provide any updates that you would request. But we will try to facilitate that between now and the next police jury. We'll work towards.
And Mr. Turner, you can wait for a call, so I mean, you can get off.
And LSU grad at that. That's what I'm talking about. Go Tigers.
Okay, we need to move. What's take care of?
mcarroll@cameronpj.org. Or just call the office and ask for Mother Mary.
Or extension 134.
Oh, there you go. That's even better.
Okay, we need to move right along here. Thank you all again for being here. And like I said, if you have any questions, please call myself, Ryan, Darrell, Mary, Karen, Miss Emily. Any one of us, if you need to call, please don't hesitate to do so. We're going to go back to administration. Ryan, you want to finish up?
Just real quick, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge all those individuals who helped make Tropical Storm Cindy what I would consider, we did have some successes. First of all, we were very thankful that it was not more impactful. At times, I'm not sure that some communities, we had infrastructure issues, road issues, and threatened many structures, but I think we fared well overall. Just from the Sheriff's Department to the Parish staff, to OEP, Danny and Ashley, keeping everyone informed. This was my first experience with a storm event as administrator, And I tell you, to see how well oiled the machine is when it comes to disseminating information, keeping everyone up to date, it seemed to work fairly well. Some of those new infrastructures, the text messages and the alerts, I think helped. The best part about it for me, you take it as somewhat of a blessing that it was not worse. But I can assure you and the residents, at 8:30 Friday morning, the department heads were sitting down talking about what we could have done better and what we would have done differently should this been a Category 1 or Category 2 storm. We did not wait. We did not stand pat. So we have already worked through what those improvements need to be. We still have an agreement with Calcasieu Parish for temporary staging sites of our office and all of our parish equipment. So we still have that agreement. It is in perpetuity. So we have other items in place to maintain a level of service to the public. Even in the event that we were all evacuated, we are prepared to continue to operate and function as best we can. But again, I want to thank all of those agencies, and especially James Gospard and Monty Pierce with our Facility Managers Division, who went about the parish closing all of these storm shelters, which we received federal grant funds to implement in the construction phase, but maybe didn't utilize as best we should in the past. Now, they got hollered at by a lot of the patrons of those buildings because they don't get to see the sun anymore, and I told them they just have to walk outside. But we stood ready for an impact, and so thanks to all of our staff. Daryl and I met with DOTD and the Coast Guard Tuesday to discuss the Access to Monkey Island project. We are now moving on to the environmental assessment phase, which is very good. It is, in fact, the last thing before the Coast Guard saying yay or nay and moving through the permitting and design phase. So it is moving along. The Coast Guard is signed on as the federal agent for the project, and we did not have to drag them into this kicking and screaming. They are voluntarily serving as the federal sponsor. So this is not financially, but serving as the federal agent of record for the project. So that is moving forward. And finally, on a much lighter but positive note, many of you may have saw a couple weeks ago, the President and his administration were touting Energy Week. If you listened closely, you heard quite a few references to Cameron Parish and specifically Cheniere and Cameron LNG, which are ongoing projects, and Cheniere is actually exporting at this point, by the former Governor Rick Perry, who is involved in President Trump's administration, the President himself, and we're sitting there and we're understanding all these different discussions, shipments going to Poland, shipments going to South Korea, shipments going to South America. There's a lot of moving parts here. And so if it's the pleasure of the jury, what I'd like to do is work with many of these companies and some of our taxing entities here, and I know Ms. Miller is here, to get a handle on a specific discussion with these companies. Put forth a little portfolio on where each company is for the potential companies. Again, just memorializing what infrastructure needs may they have, what timelines are they expecting, just so we can all stay up to date. We keep talking about $30 billion ongoing and $24 billion in permitting, but what does that really mean to us as a local governing authority or as a resident? So it would be the pleasure of the jury over the next month or so. I'd like to work with contacts at many of these companies to try to either have a public event where they each, if they're comfortable with, each come and provide a status, or for our benefit that we can keep our house in order as far as timelines, infrastructure needs, and potential impacts. So we can start planning on when residents need to be prepared for, hopefully soon on some of these proposed projects, construction-related impacts. So we're going to, if you don't have any objections, we're going to work on that over the next month or so to try and get something concrete from them. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll move on to Road and Bridge.
Everything has been taken care of, yes. Sorry, and I missed it. So if y'all are okay, I wanted to see if we could put that on this afternoon's agenda. The probation period actually ended June of 2016. And the road, we've checked everything, I've got all our new paperwork in, everything is good.
Engineer stamps and all.
Mm-hmm, yes, sir. And I would need it as an add-on.
Is that road done already, look on probation?
Yes, sir, it ended probation of June of last year,
No,
of 2016.
it went on.
It ended in December, the probation period. It actually was put on probation June 16th of 2016. The probation ended in December, but it was not up to standard at the time. That's all I have.
Any questions for Ms. Emily?
Started spraying yet?
We're trying. We were ready, and the rain came, so we had to start cutting over in the Gratiot area and Grand Lake. They have started this past week trying. I don't think they got very much accomplished. We're going to probably have to make another round almost before they can finish. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I don't see anyone from Road and Bridge here. OAP, I'm sorry. Sorry, Ms. Emily.
Okay.
You shoot a machine gun at four
I
posts.
know. Let's move on to housing. Mary?
I just have one thing on the agenda. It's for President Authority to sign all the closing documents for the sale of those LLC bonds. We sold all of them. Yes, sir.
That's it?
It,
Thank you. Okay, move to permitting.
The permit y'all tabled last month, I would suggest tabling it once more. The drainage board, is going out to the site for possible drainage issues.
Okay.
So, until I get their comments, I would suggest tabling it.
Okay. We'll do that.
That's,
We'll vote.
yeah, that's about it.
So you get here? Thank you. Ms. Irvin, employee group medical insurance. Hang on, y'all, I'm gonna mess up again. There it is. I'm sorry, Cindy.
That's okay.
I hate to not read the ballot, but.
That can be your first next year.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think,
That-
maybe you're gonna put the.
It looks like I did.
Okay, first of all, we hosted our career fair for the residents ages 16 to 24 for LA Works Business and Career Solutions Center staff, as well as a resume writing and career skill event. It was announced that Venture Global LNG has contracted with CBNI to conduct the construction of the Calcasieu Pass facility tanks. Oh my God. Delphin LNG recently announced a joint development with Golar LNG Limited. The agreement will facilitate the financing, marketing, construction, development, and operation of Delphin LNG, the first and only permitted floating LNG export project in the U.S. The port continues to work on the Archer Transplant Project contract with the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. That agreement is not yet finalized. The Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana had another successful dune grass planting on Mays Beach on Saturday, July the 8th. Nearly 8,000 plugs were planted with 30 olive trees. And that is my report.
Thank you very much.
You're
I'm sorry.
very
I'm
welcome.
sorry for overlooking your.
Hey, Tony? No, go ahead. I just want to be with you.
Okay.
About an hour.
I can go again. No.
Stay right there.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
I think everyone has the news by now that we have on September the 1st, the renewal of all our insurance, that's medical, life, dental, and vision. The medical being the biggest one, is having a 13.5% rate increase. And just to let you know where some of that information comes from, to get the 13.5% rate increase, I think everyone has a copy of this. And I've covered this information once before, a few months back, and this is an ongoing, a rolling 12-month analysis of the claim versus the premium that's paid in. If you would turn to this page here, this graph looking, or chart looking, I think it's probably the third page. I'm not going to cover all the information there, but if you have any questions, by all means, stop me and give me details. The first, or the top part of that chart, if you look at the column that says earned premium, at the very bottom it has a total, and that total is $1,963,668. Apologize for the small print. Does everybody see that column? This is
Wrong one first.
the third page.
Page 2 or 3. Wrong rate. It's the other piece. It's in your left hand. Right hand. This one.
There's a colored version and a black and white version. Make sure you got it all.
Go ahead.
All right, ready? Okay. That column, does everybody see that column at $1,900,000? That's the premium that Cameron Parish paid in over this past 12 months, ending June 30th. Okay. If you'll slide all the way to the right of that chart, that is the total claims paid during that same 12-month period. At the total of $1,823,626. The next page right after that is showing you the large claims that have been paid out during that 12-month period. And there's 20, they do the top 20, and that 20 claims, or 20 employees, I guess you could say, came out to right at $1 million. So 20 people, $20 million in claims. The claims experience is running around 92.9% for the rolling 12 months. That's just about where you were last year at the same time, 92.8% last year. Question comes up, well, where's a good percentage? Insurance companies, not just Blue Cross, but insurance companies in general, try to get it somewhere around 85%. Covers all the bills, the reserves, what have you. So we're running a little ahead of that. So that's where the 13.5% rate increase comes from. Okay. I want to change the format a little bit. I want to go into some of the choices that we have at this point. Ms. Malika is with me today from Blue Cross, and I'll let her in a little bit cover some of the changes that's coming up on September the 1st on Blue Cross. But at this point, I think we need to just zero in on the choices of different plans if we want to reduce that 13.5%. Does everybody have that? It's a 2-page chart. Got it? Okay. All right. The first column in that chart is showing you your current premium and your current benefit. The second column is showing you where those premiums are going to come September 1st, if we don't make any change. Again, that's roughly a 13.5% rate increase. Sliding to your right, you start off with the first option, and they're all numbered, second, third, fourth, and then they continue on to the back page. And I don't think we're going to get into that information as far as the choices and Well, anyway, the choices that you're looking at will reduce your premium, but also reduce the benefits. And when I say reduce the benefits, for example, if you'll notice, if you have the colored version, hopefully, the changes are in red. You already got the colored version? Oh, okay. Just brought over the colored version. Okay, do you have the colored version?
I don't know if you need to go through all the options, Mr. Urban. They had it for since yesterday.
Okay, y'all have
They
seen this
reviewed it.
before on your computer? Okay.
Yes, we've even kind of broke it down, just
All
a
right.
narrative
What you
form.
sent to me is what they saw. as
Yeah,
well.
so I
Okay.
think, I don't have a pretty good understanding about everything.
All right, well, let me just, before I forget, let you know, if we make any changes come September 1st, those changes are going to be in effect at that point. And the reason I say that is because if we move the deductible, for example, from $750 to $1,000, if someone is right on the $750 mark, they're going to have another $250 to meet September 1st. Okay. Also, the out-of-pocket charges or costs, if that goes up, come September 1st, if they've already met a portion of that or all of it, then that extra portion is going to have to be met as well.
So if they met their deductible
For the calendar year.
for that calendar year,
come
they
Sep-
would still have to, if we increase that amount, it's still gonna, they'll still have to come up with another $250,000.
That's correct.
Can I say something real fast? Actually, for Mr. Darrell Clark. The sheet that we passed out last, which is just stapled like this, Mr. Darrell Clark came in my office about 9:30 and brought up a really good point that no one's ever really considered. You know, when they talk about renewals, we always get the projections for everyone in the parish. So you're looking at a rate increase for all the waterwork districts who pay their own insurance, mosquito, rec districts, all the other even funds, the library. So he asked what it would actually cost the jury itself. Take everyone else out of the mix. How much would it cost us for our admin employees, our road and bridge employees, and our criminal court employees? This is what it's actually going to cost the jury by a rate increase. So 13.5% increase directly to the jury, which is going to come out of your pocket, it's going to be $151,000 a year. And it goes on through the different increments. So I know you just got this 5 minutes ago. We just really prepared it. It's a very rough estimate. Kayla and I worked really fast and hard to try to get this for you so you'd have time to review it today. So if you want to take that into consideration, and maybe we can talk about it at the meeting this afternoon or during the finance meeting.
We need to talk about this
But the fact that this is what the increase is to the police jury,
To the police jury for their own employees.
but that don't include the portion for the employer.
No, not the employees. This is what is actually coming out of the employer share. The projections that you'll see on the other sheets that are all colored that he's talking about, that's inclusive of every entity we do payroll for, which we bill after every payroll. So
But they
it's
are
gonna,
affected by it.
They are,
Whatever
yes.
decisions we make apply to all the waterworks districts, and whether they have library, I mean.
I think we understand it all applies to them, but the problem I was having with the whole ordeal, Mr. Chairman. The problem I'm having with the whole ordeal is that it's never been broke down, and for the I'm the oldest cowboy here, and I've been barking about this forever. How come it's never broke down for just the jury, just us guys? You said the increase is $22,000 a month. Okay, well, let's break that down. What it's gonna cost this jury. I'm not worried about the entities over there. They got to pay their money. Either that or they're out of the program. Now, let me finish. They out of the program. And that's why I asked Katie to just do it. Let's go break this down so the jury has a better understanding what we're doing with the money. In other words, it's very clear now to me that the cost is down lower than what is projected up here. Okay, because your entities, your mosquito control and your library and your fire department, or your waterworks, or whoever it is now, they're gonna pay their share of that, which is gonna bring it up to the high number of $2 million. But now it's easier for me to understand, and I think it's easier for you guys to understand too, that we're not paying $2 million just us. Everybody else is putting in that pocket, so we all understand that.
That increase is the $154,000, because I didn't see it. That's just for the awful.
That's just a jury.
Yes, that's how.
That's just a jury, just a jury, just a jury. And, well, I wanted to know what the jury was, because nobody's ever said that. I couldn't get the information, no, don't turn your head. Nobody could give me the information on it, nobody. Believe me, I don't forget too much. Thank you, Katie, I appreciate that, I really do.
Just to clarify, it is 151,000 more in addition to what you're already paying, not total. Make sure you guys.
All right. Any questions on the changes and how they come about? And just backing up a little bit, on the second page of the information that Katie had sent to you yesterday is the Police Jury Association's premiums. That's on the last two columns on the second page. Their premiums are virtually almost identical to Blue Cross's renewal. Actually, they might be a little bit higher. They do have, and I just want to go ahead and comment on their benefits, they do have one deductible in network, unlike Blue Cross. Blue Cross has two deductibles. If you go in network, you have a deductible, which currently is at $750. If you go out of network, there's a different or higher deductible. Okay, but the Blue Cross network is substantial, and it's kind of hard to go out of the network. All the hospitals and most of the physicians or providers are in the network. Police Jury Association has one deductible, whether it's in or out of network. They do have a higher out-of-pocket cost, which is $42.50, compared to some of the other plans that we're looking at for Blue Cross. Okay? Blue Cross does have a cap. If you go out of network, it does have a cap. In some cases, it's a $13,000. I think just about all of some of them are $10,000. Police jury, if you go out of network with the Police Jury Association, there is no cap. What I mean by that, if you go out of network, you'll pay us 60/40. In other words, your share will be 40%. But that's 40% forever. Whereas Blue Cross does cap it at 10,000 or 13,000. Very important. Not likely to happen, but it's one of those things that there's a possibility. Good. Any questions on the medical?
How much effect does directly to this insurance, the Affordable Care Act have if the Congress would repeal it? Does it have a bearing on us?
You know, last time, Lee, you asked me the same question, and I don't think I gave you a good answer, so I'm gonna let, when she gets up, I'm gonna let the lady from Blue Cross tell you about that. She's also gonna cover, as I said, she's gonna cover the changes in the prescription coming September 1st. Hopefully you have a colored version of this page. If you don't, then the black and white will also work as well. Now this page, there's only two pages of this. This is the life, or I'm sorry, this is the dental and vision quotes. Currently you have Guardian, and that's going up 6% September the 1st. And I don't know if anybody noticed, everything is September the 1st. Back a few years back, we had some, renewing on July the 1st, some September the 1st, some November the 1st. We moved them all to September the 1st. It's a little pain in the neck to have to do all this in one time, but at least it's over with in one shot. That first page, Guardian is the first column that you're looking at, the two plans, the basic plan and the buy-up plan. Guardian is going up 6% on the dental and vision. Now that's the first increase we've had in 3 years. We've gone 2 years with no increases, which is almost unheard of. but they are having a 6% rate increase this year, okay, which is, I think, a very low increase as increases go. Now, we do have some very competitive quotes. Looking at to the right of that Guardian, there's Lincoln. They have a 2-year rate guarantee on their disability. MetLife also has a very competitive quote, and that little green, if you're looking at the color version, is showing you what the premiums will drop if you elect to go with that company. Lincoln would be a 30% decrease on the buyout plan, a 4% decrease on the basic plan. I think the Parish pays the basic part. MetLife is also competitive. Emeritus is also competitive. And on the second page is the quotes for the life insurance. The life insurance is with Unum. We've had them for about 5 years. They are going up 19% this year. It's a big percentage, but we're not talking about the dollars we were talking about with the medical. But it is going to be about a $700 per month increase. The parish pays all of that, so there's no pushing that off on employees. Lincoln has a very competitive quote. The only bad thing with Lincoln is if we move to Lincoln, we have to do the dental and the life. They said it's a package deal. They don't do one without the other. So now MetLife is the other quote. They're a little bit more competitive or less competitive than Lincoln. Their total premium is $44.22 per month, whereas Unum is $47.86 per month. Any comments about those quotes? This is the next thing I want to show you is this booklet. We are in draft form here, a rough form, and we plan on doing this for all the employees. Sometimes it's hard to put everything together as far as what your life insurance coverage is, your dental, your medical, so on and so forth. So we're going to put all that together in one booklet, as well as some other information that's the involving vacation time, things of that nature. I think it's going to be a handy book for the employees to have. And if you have any input or would like to make any changes, we're certainly welcome to make any changes. As I said, this is just a draft form. We're going to get that out shortly. And any other questions? Okay. Ms. Malika Hurst is with Blue Cross. She's an account manager. She is going to briefly tell you about the changes in the Blue Cross plan. It doesn't matter which plan you choose. These changes affect all plans. And she's also going to answer that question.
Good morning. Malika Hurst with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I'll answer your question first. The things that they're talking about to happen in Congress right now, and they're trying to make all these decisions, that's really more on the individual side and not so much on the group side. The group actually, which was supposed to happen with the individual, the vision for the ACA plans was that you have everybody in there and kind of participate in the pool and kind of help stabilize it. Actually, what has happened is that has actually happened on the group side and not so much on the individual side. So the individual side this year, it has not, well, they're about to be published, but it just depends on what goes on in Congress. We're expecting on our members that have, they'll be getting a nice size rate increase just because we just don't know what they're going to do. And so we're trying to keep a close eye on that to see what's going to happen on more or less on the individual side, not so much on the group side.
The reason I asked, when this, I can remember back, and there was a lot of stuff that was blamed on, you know, Obamacare or whatever. Everybody was saying Obamacare or Affordable Care Act. But it was, you know, because of the Affordable Care Act, well, we got to do this, and that raised the rates and did
and stuff like that. I'm just wondering if they do away with that, would that reverse some of that?
Well, a lot of things that was added in was more preventive measures, and that they did do an increase on across our group business all the way around, but it was about 1.5%. So it wasn't the large talk that was actually being broadcasted. And so what was happening is some of that with the individuals, you have studies, and actually we recently released a report of showing what has actually happened. And even a couple of weeks ago, we had a doctor in the New Orleans area to say that he was actually treating people previously that never came in with insurance. Of course, we as taxpayers are actually still paying that. Every single time somebody goes to the ER, regardless whether they have insurance or not, we're still paying that cost. So now you have people that are now coming in with actually an insurance card to kind of supplement that cost, and now they're able to get treated properly and actually keep up with a regimen to where it's not happening where when they go in, it's not catastrophic, and actually you can prevent some things happening. So that's where the blowback is coming from now with all the town halls that you're seeing, is that people are now actually, their health is stabilizing, which is what we want in the insurance market as well too. Because of course, if we have healthy people, we're not going to be dealing always with the high claimants.
Is it true that all insurance companies that purchase or that run insurance companies in Louisiana cannot operate in Texas? Or
That is actually true. DOI won't let us cross the state line.
so if that was reversed, in your opinion, would that help the market as far as insurance or hurt it?
I'm not 100%. I think it would more hurt it, but I'm not 100% because there has not been any studies. But of course, as you discussed, even with trying to just do the shoreline, you have to go through the political process of, and you know, somebody's going to stop. I hate to say it, but
I'm done.
Okay, so I'm actually up here to discuss some changes that's actually going on on the prescription side. So as you know, of course, you did get a large rate increase this year, but as a company, Blue Cross is actually trying to slow the cost. If you paid attention to some of the other stories going on in the media, you have prescription drugs. As soon as they come off a patent and they get a generic, then the cost can go up. And of course, the one that's going to talk is the EpiPen. So what we're trying to do is take some drugs and actually try to do the generic version. We have those on a tier. And so what we're trying to do is some of those high claimants and or high drug costs, and I would say anything you see on TV, and some of y'all might be on them, but anything you see on TV, some of those drugs run between $3,000 and $10,000 just for one pill or sometimes an injection. And so what we're trying to do is slow the cost down. So effective September 1st, we're going to change some of the drug tiers. If you see where you're on the drug and it's not on that formulary, and you still need it, then of course you can still access to it. You're just going to have to go through a pre-cert process to get it. So without going into too much at this particular meetings, of course, Daryl has my number and also Greg has my number, and some of the members have my number, so they know how to find me. And if they have any issues, we would definitely walk them through the process to make sure that they can still take the medication if they need it.
Is that something that the drug is going to show up when you purchase your drugs?
Yes, after September 1st, it'll say, like if you, for example, I have had members that was getting certain medications for diabetes, but because of the milligrams that they're taking, they was previously able to just get it without a pre-certification. But now, after their renewal date, they're having to get a pre-certification. Just because what we're doing now is really trying, as a company, to hold the doctors more accountable for what they're doing, because we want our Louisiana's health to be improved, not get worse. So if you have doctors just writing prescriptions, because a lot of times they don't know what they're writing, they don't know the cost of it, but at the same time, what we're trying to do is hold them more accountable, say, okay, do you really realize what you're doing to this particular member to help improve their health and not hurt it in the future?
But now you becoming a doctor as an insurance company?
No, we're not.
You just said that
No,
you're
we're
going to
just
hold that
holding
doctor accountable. Who's
No.
going to hold the doctor accountable?
We are holding the doctor accountable as far as making sure that they're improving on health.
But you're also holding that doctor accountable. Who's the doctor on your staff?
Oh, we have several doctors on staff.
You have several
We got
doctors.
attorneys,
Yes,
too.
I know that. How many times we had to fight him, Mr. Irvin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do have doctors on staff.
Well, here's the thing. Would you rather get a 13% every year? Because the drugs are going up $1 million. I mean, we have even a school board in Lake Charles. I mean, just they spending over $500,000, $1 million plus just in drugs alone. So if we don't make these measures as a company, then you'll be getting these rate increases, and then it's like, okay, hey, what do we do for our members now? Do we still keep the insurance, or do we let it go?
I'm not arguing the case, it's just I'm saying that you got doctors on your staff that
Yeah.
sometimes make the wrong decision
Well-
for certain people.
Well, sometimes, you're paying, okay, so for example, you're paying a $7 office visit, you're paying a $7 copay for a certain drug. Yes? Yes?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, okay. So you're at the point of person, when you go to the pharmacy, you're paying that $7 or $15 or whatever that copay is. Behind these scenes, the actual cost of that drug could be up to $500 that you're not paying out your pocket. But as Blue Cross, we're paying out your pocket. So we're trying to control some of that cost just to make sure it's a necessary drug for you to take and not something else that the doctor could have tried something else. But, right. I'm good now? Okay.
He'd argue with Ms.
Fine, no, that's fine. Cause,
I don't think there should be any problems, because I've asked
Yeah.
the same question
okay,
when we were talking
that's what
about
I
that.
figured, Irvin.
The pre-cert process is probably gonna be something that someone's gonna have to deal with after September 1st. You have to go back to your doctor, let them sign off on this medication. So, it may be a little bit of homework, a little bit of footwork on your part, but it should all work out fine. They just watching the opinion.
So it's all gonna be on the pre-cert?
No, not all of them. Not all of them. We do have a
No,
list.
I'm saying, but the ones that would make changes.
For example, we did actually this same procedure with our individual market, and we had maybe about a 5%, maybe 10% disruption. It didn't disrupt the whole block of business. So we've been moving people, and I maybe have, me personally, of the book of business I handle a 5-parish area, and I maybe had about 5 phone calls of people just saying, hey, what happened?
But what I'm asking is, it's gonna be you're gonna have to get pre-certified for that drug.
Only on that particular drug, yeah.
But if you're not certified for that drug, the insurance won't pay for it.
No, you can still get it, it's just gonna be a little bit more work. So, for example, we had one medication that we, like I said, is a diabetes medication. So it was without pre-cert, it was approved for like a 500 milligram, a 750 milligram. But when it came to that $1,000 extended release milligram, that's the one that we made them pre-cert on.
I learned a lot when I was the agent for y'all with a company that I'm not gonna even mention. Because everybody,
Yeah, you remember that,
I
huh?
remember that. I remember it.
I did too.
The main problem in that was everybody seemed to be having to be pre-certed on whatever
Yeah.
medication they were taking. The second problem was they were waiting until they were at the drive-in window to find out they needed to be pre-certed. So if there's somebody that thinks they're gonna have to be pre-certed, get it done before that last field step.
Is there a list of drugs?
There is a list of drugs. What we can do, if y'all decide to stay with Blue Cross, and I hope that y'all do, we'll provide that at the open enrollment meetings and make sure that the office has a list of those drugs that's on there.
By the way, I knew I was gonna forget to mention that. When I went out for quotes, okay, United Healthcare did not want a quote, Aetna did not want a quote. And the only reason is when we send them the information, and that's the experience over the last 12 months, and they'll go back 2 or 3 years and look at it, they won't just use the 12 months. But they'll look at that, they'll look at the premium that Blue Cross is moving to, or renewal premium. They decide, well, we may be just a shade under or a shade above, so no use worrying about it, we're not gonna quote it. So they just send us an email. We've got emails on Aetna and United Healthcare that said they didn't want to quote. the ones were, well, Blue Cross obviously, but, the association was the other one, but these were.
Any other questions?
I'm glad you're looking at me and smiling, because I smile back to you. It's just been a long rodeo.
I understand.
The only other thing I gotta tell Blue Cross Blue Shield, I'm pretty sure we're gonna go back, I don't know about the rest of the jury. But they need to get rid of their automatic calling. They need to get rid of all the people that putting stuff in your emails. Don't need all that. That'd save them a bunch of money. Trust me, it would save them a bunch of money.
Well, let me tell you what the automated calling is for. A lot of times, and I've had members, and some of them have called me, and Rick said, here's your number, call it. What happens is, a lot of times, they'll claim to stop paying, because we said, hey, do you have any other insurance? They may not have it, but it's just it's a 2-minute phone call to Blue Cross to say, I don't have any other insurance, and now your claims go back to where they were paying you for. And I find out about it about 2 months after this happened. So, so then we go back and update the file, and everything goes back.
Have that phone call come to you about 4 days a week, and see how much you can enjoy it.
Oh, I pay. As a Blue Cross employee, guess what phone call I get too? Mm-hmm.
I don't like, but that's okay. Okay, I just thought I'd save you some money.
Okay.
Does the staff have any questions for?
Mr. Irvin, I didn't have let's go back to the Police Jury Association. I'm just looking at these papers right here.
Okay.
What option was the Police Jury Association? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
7 and 8.
But there's no 7 and 8 in this. There's 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Oh, what we did, we got that, we did those 4, we just, instead of sending one of those for all 8 options,
I mean, I've
we
got
kind of met
this one.
yesterday. I mean, we can expand that if this is the second page.
It would be 7 and 8.
Yes, that's 7 and 8, that's
Okay.
3 juries.
That's the Police Jury Association. Right. And the copay on it is
15, the doctor office copay is, that is $15 and 20, oh, I'm sorry, 20%.
is that on the specialist?
Yes.
And we pay what on Blue Cross?
Currently, you're paying 30 and 45.
45. And option 1, plan 7 is 14% over what we're paying now.
Correct.
And 10% on the $1,000.
So, like I said, they're right at the Blue Cross renewal, maybe just a little bit higher because their rate increase would be 14% versus Blue Cross 13.5, if you compare apples and apples. Maybe not so much apples and apples, but real close.
Right.
And a 10% increase over the second option, and that's what brings you your deductible of $1,000.
And you had stated the other day on that when there was no limit on the outer network.
Right.
No out-of-pocket facility.
Right, out of network, there's no limit, so if someone goes to a provider that is not in it's a PHCS network, a very large network, again, kind of like Blue Cross, but locally not as good as Blue Cross.
And to be honest, it was a whole lot easier to deal with than Blue Cross right now.
Is it?
Yes,
Okay.
it was. My wife's been on the phone a lot here lately with Blue Cross over paperwork issues with Blue Cross. Just for a doctor visit.
Just to help things along, let us get into the loop on that when you have a problem. We have a lady in our agency, speaking of not Blue Cross, but our agency, that works on claims all day long. Her name is Regina, and if you call for me or call for Regina at our office, a lot of times she, gets some shortcuts.
It's not so much her having to call, it's Blue Cross sending us a bill for a doctor's visit, and then an automated phone call, and it's a real pain in the.
Yeah. Well, like I said, if you get us in the loop on that, sometimes it can be solved or resolved real quick.
Any other questions? sir.
And I'm just offering this if y'all want, I don't mind staying, I think y'all have a meeting at 1:30. If you'd like me to stay, I'd be glad to attend that meeting. Let me know. Okay, thank y'all.
And Ms. Curtis, it is on the agenda that not, to approve a quote, but I think it depends on if we're gonna stay with Blue Cross. I mean, we can move that to next month. I mean, that's just, it's on the agenda to approve. If y'all need time to consider this, we can move to the next. Just to let you know.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're gonna move to item 6, review agenda. While we're doing that, have your, Cameron LNG, donated, $4,000 to the Agro Fire Fund. And, you sent a letter of appreciation to this. Building the new fire, building,
How much we get an LNG grant?
oh, this way, this coming. Also, while we're viewing the agenda,
There's one coming.
Just wait. We're gonna review, we've got, the Cameron Lion Club, we've got the 14th annual Cameron Fishing Festival. We've got, prices on, sponsorship, opportunities. Anybody would like to look at the list, it goes from a friend, which is around $250 up to $10,000. So anybody that would like to, yeah. Anybody wants to give some money, they're happy to take it. All right? Anybody got anything else? Have you reviewed?
Yep.
Okay. Well, sorry. I can't jerk that.
Curtis, on that, we do need to add, memorandum of understanding which for the register of voters to use the Hackberry Recreation Center and the Grand Lake Farming Center, for absentee voting. So we'll need to add that on the agenda as well as the state lease, that we talked about for that property in Hackberry. There's no point for you, so.
No point where
So we're gonna add those on. Oh, and the road, and the acceptance of the road.
That was on that.
Anyone else? Anybody? Thank you.